this is...
Nope. Careful. 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 Careful.
Are you recording?
I am.
Alright, as am I. Go.
And the light came back on. This may go back off, so just be aware. This light's on the fritz. Hey everybody, happy Sunday. I hope that wherever you are and whatever you're doing, you are having an amazing weekend. Have a treat. I've just bribed my dogs with salmon skins because it stops them trying to play with each other and bark and tear around. If you've watched Sunday Musings and Chicken and Gardens, you might occasionally hear a very angry dog barking in the background. That is Mr. Ghost because he likes to be part of the action, and when he's not, bad things happen. The weather outside is really terrible. So today, instead of filming the chicken and garden and Sunday musing outside, I brought you into my kitchen where I'm making a coffee right now. Because I'm a coffee snob. I shouldn't have more than one coffee a day. Don't tell my cardiologist. It's between you and me. When I was diagnosed with long QT, my doctor said to me, "Do you drink coffee?" And I was like, He said, "You really maybe shouldn't drink as much coffee as you do." I'm like, "Well, I drink one coffee a day." He's like, "Is it a good coffee?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, you can have one coffee. Occasionally, he'll let me have two. And this is an occasion that I'm having two coffees because I'm a coffee snob." Anyway, that's not what I want to talk to you about today. What I want to talk to you about today is pretty simple. What was the moment that you realized that we need to change the way we live? So a couple of weeks ago, I was in the UK and you saw where I grew up. I shared with you the place I grew up and the event in my life that made me go, oh yeah, we need to change how we live. We need to change how we do things. We need to make sure that we live in a better society, and we must make some changes to the way we live in order to make sure that this planet is still habitable for us humans for generations to come. But today I want to know what it was that started you on the journey, whether it was, hey, I need to use public transit more and I need to drive a personal car less, I need to use less petrol or less diesel. Or maybe it was, maybe I should switch my light bulbs to be energy efficient. Or maybe it was, I'm not going to buy certain things at the supermarket because I know that they've come a long way and they're out of season. And it would be better if I purchased local food from local farmers and local smallholders that are in season. When did that happen for you? What moment did you go, hey, I need to change how I'm doing this? Maybe you still haven't reached that point yet, and that's totally okay too. So I'm just tamping down my coffee. All the noises that come with making a good cup of coffee. I mean, for me, I honestly feel really guilty about having coffee because coffee is quite a problem when it comes to carbon footprint because it's not local. It doesn't grow locally. It comes from particularly difficult to get to areas of the world. So there's quite a lot of carbon involved in getting coffee beans from one place to another. And it is a vice of mine. So maybe I need to start looking for alternatives. I have thought about growing my own coffee actually, and having like a couple of coffee plants so I can have one cup of coffee a season that was grown by myself. I know that it takes a really long time to grow coffee. There's a guy on YouTube by the name of a Michigan gardener, M.I. Gardner, and he's actually grown coffee, and it takes about 3 or 4 years before the plants are even anywhere near mature. But I figure it might be a fun thing to do. So I have friends who made the decision to start leading a more environmentally responsible lifestyle. when a particular weather event took place. I also have friends who realized, because of financial reasons, that, hey, we need to change how we are using energy or generating energy. And I also have friends who lost the use of a car, and whether that was they were in an accident or their car broke down, and then they end up saying, you know, it's actually easier for me to use public transit, or it's easier for me to use a micromobility solution, or it's easier for me to just not have a car. What I didn't tell you when I was filming last week, or a couple of weeks ago now, was that when I was very little, my parents got rid of their car. So we used to own a Saab. I remember it very clearly when I was growing up. And that car was the last car that our family owned. My mum doesn't drive. She didn't drive. She doesn't drive. She couldn't drive now because she couldn't see well enough. But it was just my dad who drove. And he would drive maybe once a week. And the car was sitting in the garage the rest of the time. It just never got used. And it was costing my parents an arm and a leg to own that car, to service that car, to keep it on the road. They couldn't afford to buy a brand new one, so it was a used car that was becoming increasingly unreliable. This is the late 70s, early 80s, by the way. So they just sold it. And from that point on, we as a family would cycle everywhere or walk everywhere. And we lived in a very remote rural area, at least by British standards. And so making those trips by train, by foot, by bicycle, taught us a lot. So I would love to know what your story is and what your moment was. I've shared mine. Share yours. Anyway, as usual, there will be another one of these next week, hopefully outside if the weather is better. But let me know your thoughts in the Discord chat room, in Mastodon, or if you're a Patreon supporter, in the comments there. If you want more, subscribe, hit the bell, and you can follow the links below to regularly support us with a YouTube membership or a Patreon subscription. You'll also find links to our Ko-fi, Bitcoin and Swag store, as well as that aforementioned Mastodon server. Scrolling on my right is the list of amazing charged up supporters, and shout outs go out to our V2G patrons. They are Pedro Mora Pinheiro, Alan Tupper, Andrew Martin, Bennett Elder, Brophy Wolf, Chris Maxwell, Cyprian Laplace, Dan Blair, Gordon C, Hey Esker, John Trammell, Carl Fox, Mark Eggleton, Peter Dillinger, Regine Fellows, Sean Tucker, Stefan Flamgen, Stephen Williams, Taslit and the Gong, Paul Bricknell, Tony Moss, Carl Hodgson, Chris Centaur, Denny Hyde, Lance Schlau, Linda Irish, Mike Weeder, and Paul Nelson. And finally, big thanks to our off-grid supporters, Paul Conway, Kevin Burrowbridge, Stephen O'Donoghue, Jim Burness, Robert Flannery, Aaron Hahn, Ellery Hensley, Rory Litwin, JP Fagerback, Dave Kitchen, Andrew Glenn, Anonymous Freak, Chris and Michael Johnson, Clay Witt, CPU Freak 101, Eric Neck, Joe Bresney, Joe Hughes, John Henderson, Laura Reynolds, Marcel Ward, Matthew Drobnak, Nigel S, Reggie Watts, Will Graylin, and of course, Ian. Don't forget that we make content every Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Saturday on this channel, plus over on Sundays here on Take Two, the Chicken and Garden Update and the Sunday Musing. I hope that wherever you are and whatever you're doing, the rest of your day is a good one. I hope it's slightly drier than it is here up in the mountains. And until next time, keep evolving.